Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation, Citizen Science at Your Library. I'm Robin Saltas. I'm a librarian here, and I'm involved in this project we're going to talk about. And I'd like to introduce you to Darlene Cavalier, who's a professor of practice at Arizona State University Center for Engagement and Training, part of the School for the Future of Innovation in Society. Professor Cavalier is the founder of SciStarter, a nonprofit to join and contribute to science through access to more than 2,700 searchable formal and informal research projects and events. Ms. Cavalier is the primary investigator for the Libraries as Community Hubs for Citizen Science grant, which Southeast Regional Library is one of 6 participating Maricopa County libraries. I'm now going to turn this program over to Darlene, who's going to explain how libraries are helping support citizen science in their communities and how you too can get involved in exciting upcoming projects and events.
Thank you, Robin. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, and welcome to our guests who are watching on YouTube. This is a program all about citizen science. I can't remember if I'm using this or the regular clicker, all right? We all should have rehearsed. There we go, got it the right way. So libraries can and do connect regular people, that's all of us. That means you don't have to have a formal science degree and you don't have to have a formal any kind of degree to engage in scientific research. So we say libraries can connect regular people to science they can do. The difference between this and some STEM, you may have heard the term STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, programs, is that with citizen science, sometimes it's called crowdsourcing or community science and so forth, participatory research in science. It advances areas of scientific research. So your work, your contributions actually help advance scientific research. Citizen science is pretty big. You may be a citizen scientist. You likely know somebody who is a citizen scientist. This is an example of a program. It's called eBird. I'm familiar with eBird. Very popular with birders, people who watch and look for birds. eBird is an app that allows them to organize their information and their observations. And in exchange for using that free app, anybody who uses it gives eBird permission to share it with ornithologists, some of whom are at Cornell, but they're all over the world using this data. There's 1.5 million reports that came in January. eBird's pretty popular. Citizen science is big. There's an estimated 1.5 million people who volunteer to monitor our nation's rivers, streams, lakes, and oceans. It's a lot of people who are giving up time that they could be watching TV, or spending time with their family, or maybe they're doing this together as families, to go out and help do this, collect this information. And then there's passive types of projects too. This is an example, SETI at home. A lot of people download that software program, and it sounds a little technical, but it allows the spare processing time of your computer to be used when you're not using it. And scientists use that to, believe it or not, search for signs of life in space. Now this is more of a slide to librarians, so if you're listening out there, this comes from a new guide for librarians. It's a librarian's guide to citizen science. And we talk about the benefits to libraries and patrons / customers, engage and empower patrons, which we absolutely see evidence of this. When you're involved in something you're concerned or interested in, we say curious or concerned. There's a project for you. When you're able to help advance research in that area, we know that you're also more likely to get involved in related advocacy around those topics. But for some people, it's just pleasure. It's just a fun thing to do. Build relationships with scientists and researchers. Too often, people don't have an opportunity to do that. And when I say people, I mean the scientists and researchers. It's rare that they actually get to have some nice interaction with public. That's us. Citizen science allows for that two-way exchange of information. Access resources for STEM. We'll talk about some programs that are happening in libraries now that not only get you involved if you're interested in citizen science, but in related programs too. Benefits to citizen science. Doing citizen science through libraries allows scientists and researchers to reach new audiences. You can help leverage librarians' expertise with programming. Many citizen science projects that I'll give you examples of, they lack that kind of wraparound, comprehensive service of additional programming, building communities around those projects. Sometimes these projects can feel a little isolating when you're by yourself in your backyard, either doing bird watching or monitoring any kind of biodiversity species. Promote local or global projects. Citizen science can happen in your home, in your backyard, but there's global projects. So it could be at an individual level that actually has a global impact. It also might be hyper-local. And Robin will probably talk a little bit about upcoming Bioblitz, where that's a perfect example of that. So we looked for ways to connect communities to citizen science and citizen scientists to, again, advance fields of research. These are some ways that citizen science is entering libraries now. And this basically is a launch of a project that we're doing right here in Phoenix, in Tempe, Gilbert, Maricopa County. And what we're looking at is how we can get instruments that sometimes are required to do these projects through libraries, circulated in libraries, so that people can sample citizen science projects to do and not have to invest in some of the instruments that might be required for that. And we did learn through SciStarter, which you'll see what SciStarter is about in a moment, that people would bookmark projects and not join them. And so we wanted to see what that was about. Why aren't they joining the projects? And we saw a common thread there that typically that project had an instrument or a tool or materials that weren't easily accessible around your house. So that was our first signal that lack of access to those instruments, or maybe a lack of awareness of how to use those, was a barrier to entry for these projects. That was the beginning of this research project to see, could we work with libraries and what would be involved? In the end, which is about maybe a year and a half since we started that project, we now have kits in some of the libraries around here, including this one. And these are book lists that you can see. Those are all about citizen science. There's a lot of books about citizen science. This you may have seen here. It's a display, information about each of the kits. You take your card and you can go on up to the reference desk and ask to check out a kit. These are 3 examples. We have 5 projects in circulation, or 5 kits in circulation, actually 3 now and 2 to be added, I think, next week. And so we started with 3 that tested very well through community dialogues, and perhaps some of you were involved in those dialogues. That was how we were able to sort 3,000 projects that are registered on SciStarter and start to surface those that would be of most interest to communities. So the community dialogues helped us surface the right type of projects that your community expressed interest in. Not surprising, light pollution. You get beautiful views of your Milky Way and your galaxies out here. I don't have in Philadelphia. I live in Center City. It's very difficult for us to see the stars at night. With the, I guess you could call it sprawl out here, there definitely is concern about light pollution getting in the way of that. But that's not the only problem with light pollution. Light pollution affects your sleeping habits. It affects the nesting and migration patterns of animals that need it, that need that actual pure darkness. So there's a research project that asks people to monitor the light pollution. And you do this by classifying the stars that you should be able to see but can't see. So what we did with this kit, this says measuring light in the night. What we did with this kit is include a dark sky meter. And it builds confidence in the participant, you, that you're actually measuring the light pollution accurately. And it gives the scientists more accurate data as well. We were able to also put in there stargazing charts, so constellations, and kind of bring the website for this project to life in a physical kit. You check it out, you use it for 2 weeks. It should be enough time to try to go out one night and get a clear night to measure the light pollution. Then you return it, and maybe you want to try another kit. Another kit might be the zombie hunting kit. This one also tested well here. And I don't know if this would test in Philadelphia as well as it tested here, but you have a lot of bees out here. And so this is BEE because these are honeybees. And so there's a scientist at UC San Francisco who started realizing that some bees, honeybees, otherwise healthy honeybees, were being infected by a fly that he calls a zombie fly. So the fly lays its eggs in otherwise healthy honeybees, and the bee actually starts behaving like a moth, another play on the term zombie. If you see a bee flying around a light at nighttime by itself, exhibiting moth behavior, keep an eye on it. We provide a kit that helps you put out a light trap at night with a safe container underneath that allows you to continue making observations. Over time, if that bee has been infected by the zombie fly, you'll know it because maggots will emerge from that honeybee. Honeybee dies, and the fly gets to perpetuate its existence. So this scientist in San Francisco, this is a great example of he and his few lab partners can't be everywhere wondering where this is happening. And it turns out it's not just San Francisco. When you add data to this, even 0, you have a healthy honeybee or you saw no honeybees, that's a great data point. And you will see on this map all the places where the bees have been infected and positively identified. The way that you share your information is by taking a picture and uploading it. And then the scientists look at that. They zoom in and they can let you know they're relatively certain that's been confirmed, an infected bee, it's not infected, or they're still looking at it. And if they're still looking at it and they have questions, they know how to reach you and they will reach you to ask you for more questions. But it's really cool to see. So far, no zombies have been identified in this area, but that doesn't mean they're not there. And in fact, you'll see on the map how it's encroaching a little bit here. Exploring biodiversity. This is a fun kit too that allows you to document and identify plants and animals all around you, everywhere. This is the Bioblitz that's happening, and maybe some of you, I think, have been involved in Bioblitzes. The kit itself provides clip-on macro and micro lenses for your iPhone or a tablet or your iPad, and especially through an app called iNaturalist. This is a free app you can download. Go outside and you upload pictures of biodiversity around you. If you can zoom in using that, that's great because other scientists can look, and actually all naturalists look, and they help you positively identify what you're looking at there. There's even an option to use, it's software, but it's based on artificial intelligence that can pretty much tell you what you're looking at and what species that is. Scientists use this data. Global scientists use this data. Planners use this data. Policymakers use this data. Really cool project. And Robin, I hope you talk more about the Bioblitz that's coming up too. So, examples of how citizen science is being proliferated in libraries. This is one I already talked about. This is happening, developed by Arizona State University and SciStarter in partnership with libraries, with support from the Institutes for Museum and Library Services. We have them in 6 libraries happening here. But other examples exist too. Los Angeles Public Library, they work with a program called GLOBE, and you may start to hear more about GLOBE as we do more citizen science programming. Much of what happens with the GLOBE program is volunteers or citizen scientists are asked to go and help ground truth satellite data from NASA's satellites. One project in particular is called the Cloud Observation Project. So this is operated through a GLOBE app, and you can participate in many ways. It just happens to be pretty easy to work through the app. And you're asked to go outside and simply take pictures of the clouds. Sounds so meaningless, but would you know that your data is used and basically counted against, and I'm forgetting the words here, but basically it's used to, this is the ground truthing part. It's compared to the satellite images. Satellite is taking pictures of those clouds from above. Mashed together, that information is used to help predict floods, help predict droughts. It's pretty incredible. That's just one of the protocols on that app. 2 other protocols that exist involve something called the Mosquito Habitat Mapper. This is looking for mosquitoes that might be breeding Zika virus. There's another one that's called the Land Coverage App. And this is basically to verify the type of land that is near you, right under you. So all of this goes in to advanced scientific research in ways that just doesn't seem fathomable. I'm like on Philadelphia time now. All right. So This is how LA Public Libraries is using this. They actually train people to get involved in the GLOBE protocols. Here's one from LA County Libraries in partnership with the Natural History Museum. And now they do, it's citizen science, but it's community science. Very different terminology, same point. People coming together to get involved in issues that they're curious or concerned about, and doing that through data collection and observations. In this case, they're creating and prototyping community science kits. And you can see there's ways that you can identify and then also collect insects and other specimens. Some charts here of what you might be able to see locally. A cute backpack, binoculars, net, all these things. These are simple ways to engage community members and customers / patrons in citizen science and communities. This is a really neat project too. This is throughout the state of North Carolina, largely organized by North Carolina State University, their library system in particular. So what they do is they loan out camera traps, and people are invited to take home the camera trap, carefully install the camera trap, and then this is triggered to be able to pick up both daytime and nighttime images of when motion is taking place. Really what they're looking for is to identify, capture images of, and then crowdsource the identification of mammals throughout the state. And the way that they crowdsource it so that all the images are taken, the images are then posted online. People can get involved in that project even if they weren't part of the first part. Take the camera trap and install it. You could be part of the part from here, even looking at the images to say, I think I know what that is, and help identify it. San Diego Public Library Network hosts a Citizen Science Day Expo to let their patrons know about all the many ways they can get involved in local citizen science projects in need of their help. They have a bunch of other projects that they activate through their library system too. That's pretty remarkable. This I put up here because it's, if you are involved in Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts and librarians as well, libraries can be a great place to host troops to come together. And Girl Scouts do a citizen science project through SciStarter, and it is how they earn a badge for doing citizen science. And I can share more information about that. Lots of different ways to find citizen science in libraries. This is mostly aimed at librarians, but I'll just share it here because I think one resource in particular called StarNet is a great place to find lots and lots of resources, STEM resources. You'll start to see some of the citizen science materials that I've been describing listed on StarNet as well. To get an idea of the kits and what you'll be invited to do through the kits, you can look at scistarter.org/library. And for librarians, there are resources available and grants available, support available to bring citizen science to your library. For the librarians out there, and in fact for everybody, if you look at either citizenscienceday.org or scistarter.org Citizen Science Day, you'll find a host of resources available. These are both for you to find events in need of your help leading up to Citizen Science Day, which I'm going to get to in a minute. And these are also for librarians who are looking to bring Citizen Science Day to their libraries. Citizen Science Day, April 13th, 2019. Coming up. It's presented by the Citizen Science Association and SciStarter. This is to really celebrate all the work that the scientists are doing, all the work that you are doing, the citizen scientists are doing, and as we say, the diversity of projects that are around the world. It's also our way to just amplify opportunities to engage in citizen science. These are some of the resources that I mentioned earlier for the librarians or anybody who wants to plan an event around Citizen Science Day. You can find everything that you need. An event finder, an embeddable project finder, a librarian's guide to citizen science, which is a pretty detailed resource about whether you're a seasoned librarian who's very familiar with citizen science or you're kind of new to the game, points you in lots of different directions, highlights all the ways that I mentioned that libraries are getting involved in citizen science, and kind of step-by-step guide for Citizen Science Day. There's also a people finder. This is valuable to somebody who's hosting an event or a project. You can just go online on SciStarter, plot up to a 50-mile radius circle, and actually reach all the people within SciStarter who have opted in to receive messages and invite them to your event. So this, I'm going to kind of skip this because it's the YouTube audience, but my audience here might want to hear about some other things. This is really directed towards the librarians, and you'll be able to see the slide here in the YouTube presentation, the video. Well, I guess we have a lot of these. So this is an example of an interactive poster that you might have seen in your library last year. This is another way that we started to understand what communities were interested in. And these are talk aloud posters. So these are put up to really generate conversation. There were sticky notes here. Imagine this poster is up. These questions say, what types of citizen science projects have you participated in? And I think this is the library that I came to last Citizen Science Day when we put these posters up. What are you interested in investigating through citizen science? And we give some examples. So people would fill out the sticky notes and put them up there. And it was really interesting to me and my colleagues who came through that we would see sticky notes that had air quality. I'm concerned about air quality. I'm concerned about Alzheimer's. This one came up multiple times, and this plays an important role in what we're about to talk about. These are all just links to resources that have been mentioned in this presentation. Let's get into Citizen Science Day here, because I think this is key. Of all those 3,000 projects, we had to whittle down the ones to make kits, right? And try to sample and prototype those kits and see how that goes. But we also had to find one to rally around for that collective action on Citizen Science Day. And because of that interactive poster that I mentioned, because of those community dialogue conversations that we had, this project that's called Stall Catchers seems to be the one, and I think is the one, to rally our attention around on Citizen Science Day, especially for a collective impact. Especially because it can be done by anyone, anywhere, as long as you have internet connection. We're hoping that people go into their libraries. We're hoping that libraries organize events on April 13th, like this one is, inviting people to come together to do an online project, which is unusual. Sometimes the online projects you're doing by yourself, and that feeling of being socially isolated happens sometimes with these online projects. So we're kind of crossing over between online and offline by bringing people together to do this project. This particular project we call Megathon. And it's called a Megathon because it started as a series of, this is jargon, catchathons. Catchathon is the act of getting people together to do this online project. And why it's called catchathon is because scientists at Cornell who study Alzheimer's and are looking at different treatments, and as you probably know, there's no cure for it. You know, it's a 7th leading killer. And what they've discovered is that if you have an increase of a stalled blood flow moving through your vessel, so that's the stall. This program allows people to catch a stall by identifying through ultrasound videos. So you see blood moving through these blood vessels of a mouse of a brain of a mouse. That's what you're looking at the whole time. You can see when it's stalled. That means it's stopped. And you're asked to identify, is it flowing or is it stalled? And you want to catch the stalls by clicking stall. Moves on to the next 3-second video. You can see it again. As you do the game, you get better and better. And you cannot mess up. You're not going to mess up anybody's research because 10 people have to see the same thing and say the same thing about that little tiny video clip that you saw in order for it to be verified and moved into research grade. And as you get better and as you're more accurate, you may not need 10 people as you go on. So it's an amazing way to accelerate this research. What they're finding at Cornell is an increase in the stalled blood vessels leads to an increase in lost memory. But they've been able to reverse that. By eliminating or reducing the number of stalls, the memory actually comes back for the mouse. So what this day, this catchathon, this megathon of bringing together all these catchathons at one time on April 13th, these researchers have a goal, and it's very audacious. but we're going to try to reach it, of analyzing as much data in a 1 hour time period on April 13th as it would take Cornell researchers to do an entire year. So we've got a lot of reasons to want this one to work. These are some graphics provided by our friends at Stall Catchers. They're hoping to have 100,000 participants on April 13th, completing one entire data set that Cornell is ready to go through that will take them a year, which answers one full research question in that 1 hour. These are all the partners involved in this project. Our sponsor here is the National Network of Libraries of Medicine, part of the National Institutes of Health. Obviously, they have a reason to see this succeed as well. The Megathon, everything that I just already said. The 1 hour here, let's see, it's 10:30 to 12:30 is the 2 hour event. We just have to do multiple calculations with Arizona because it's after we all switch our clocks, and you know. So if you come, you'll show up at 10:30. From 10:30 to 11 o'clock, there's a live online event where you get to practice all the things that I just mentioned. You'll get on board with your account. The home base for this is Microsoft's headquarters, so you'll see live video being streamed to you from special guests there. The leader of this project, the founder of Stall Catchers, will be on to greet everybody too, kind of just warming everybody up and making sure that everybody's ready to go at 11 o'clock your time here. At 11 o'clock, you start analyzing those videos, and you do that for an entire hour. The last half hour, we'll learn about the results. How many videos were actually annotated? Did we hit our mark there? What does that mean? And the scientists from Cornell too will tell us what they found. It's pretty amazing. It's almost real-time feedback that you'll get. And you'll be able to ask questions too of the scientists. Megathon.us is where you can sign up. And by the way, even if you can't come to the library, Robin can talk about this, but your library will have a team that you can join even if you do this from home. You can do it from your phone. You can do it from wherever you want. But it would be fun and have a lot of impact if you joined your library's team. But it would be great if you came to the library, but if you didn't, there's ways that you can get involved anyway. On megathon.us, when you sign up for the Megathon, which also gives you an account on SciStarter. As researchers at ASU, what we look at then is how effective was an event like Citizen Science Day and the topic of Alzheimer's and this combination of bringing people together at a library. What does that look like in terms of engagement and retention compared to other ways that we get people involved in citizen science? And we do this with a lot of different, these are called referral sources. Here's another example. This was a PBS television show that featured the Stall Catchers program. And you'll see the video clip if you go to Megathon. We look and see as people come to SciStarter and get involved in projects after watching a TV show, or after reading a magazine article about it, or after getting involved in a Girl Scouts project. We look to see the flow of how long they stay involved in projects, and if, kind of what patterns we can see emerge from there. And that makes us better in our design of these projects and our outreach as well. So you're part of a research project, but you're also accelerating scientific research at the same time, and hopefully having fun and learning something in the process. So for Citizen Science Day, if you're interested in getting involved, or if you're interested even in hosting an event in your community center, or your retirement center, wherever you want to, you can join weekly open calls. 4 p.m. is the Eastern Standard Time version of this, every Wednesday. You just call in, ask questions. What do I need to do to bring this to my 55 and older community? And our friend at SciStarter, Caroline, will help you with everything. A little bit more about SciStarter. It's your gateway to finding projects. Typically, we don't host these projects. We just want to help you find them. And then we look at all the analytics on the back end that advances research, that can tell us that people aren't joining projects if there's tools or instruments that are required of that. That can tell us where people stop getting involved in citizen science projects. That helps us understand the motivations and how to really validate the people involved in these projects. How do we start to accreditate people who are involved in these projects and advancing research? That's what the homepage looks like on SciStarter. And 3,000 projects, you're going to find something that you like to do. There's easy ways to find a project. You can just use the general search on the homepage and Click that little button and that will pull up all the local projects for you. Or you can search by activity type. Show me things I can do while I'm hiking. Show me things I can do while I'm going for a walk, while I'm at the beach, while I'm XYZ. Lots of different things that emerged as we had a lot of focus groups about that. You can search by topic. If you're an educator or a homeschooler, you can look for projects that have classroom materials, or you can search by appropriate age level. Indoor, outdoor. I was thinking about you with the injured knee, the idea of not being able to go outside and participate in projects. There's projects you can search for, just things I can do at home. This is last year's Citizen Science Day web page, but it has pretty much the same resources, but I encourage you to go there. And this is mostly for librarians or educators. If you want to embed a project finder on your website, that's a project finder, and you can open up the code to just copy and paste over to your website. And I think these are examples of how other, this is how PBS and that TV show that I mentioned, when they do a call to action, you watch the TV show, then they point you to their website to join a project. Their project finder is the SciStarter database. It just is on their website, and they use their logos, and that's great. Same with PBS and SciGirls. They don't have to, nothing has to say SciStarter. They were very kind to do that, but they pull from our database instead of having to create their own database. And they pre-filter. So for PBS, they only are showing projects, they already pre-filtered it. It's only projects that can be done in the United States and that are appropriate for kids. That's all they'll see in that list of topics. And for librarians, we put these in the Librarian's Guide to Citizen Science. As you review projects on SciStarter, think of the ways that you can introduce these experiences and resources through your, to your patrons/customers. You can invite local subject matter experts, and some of you have probably been to this library hearing from local subject matters talk about projects related to, for example, the kits. And Robin can talk more about how there will be a bee expert coming in talking about bees and honey and maybe the honeybee collapse, I'm not sure. But it's a great way to learn about a topic, and maybe that inspires you to check out that zombie kit and get involved in it. Leveraging existing programs and partners, especially with ASU pretty much right down the street. There's so many people there who will be interested in coming out to the libraries to talk about their work, and I encourage all the librarians listening here, tap the expertise at your local university for this. So our goal is to help libraries become hubs for this type of activity. These are all just programs and resources that I have mentioned. And this is for librarians if you're interested in getting involved in citizen science. It's hard to see that email, but that's info@scistarter.com. And don't hesitate to reach out and ask us any questions. That might be the last slide. But I would like to, can I invite you up here to talk to me, my two guests? We're going to hear from actual citizen scientists.
Same time?
Yes, let's do it.
Oh, good. Moral support.
Yes. Peggy and Julie.
It's both on the same side.
Yeah, we can, you'll probably get close to me so you can talk into my mic.
All right.
Okay. You have tested the kits. And you tested the kits before they were put into circulation.
I did.
Right? You want to tell us a little bit about that experience and how you came to test the kits and so forth.
I'm not sure.
And you were I would say you're very brave to test out some of those kits. We didn't know where they were going to go, and your feedback was super helpful.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I tested the mosquito habitat kit, which is part of the Globe, whatever it was.
That's right.
In Los Angeles, and we did not use it here. That was harder to use. Not all of the parts were here. And I tested the zombie kit, and my light bulb burned out after the third day. But I did really enjoy that, and I was just sorry that my kids weren't younger.
Oh.
My kids are, 30, 27, 30, 28, and 26.
Okay.
And they really would have enjoyed it had they been younger children. We would have done it as a family, and they would have fought over who got to do it first. And it just would have been a fun experience for them.
The light bulb burning out has come up a couple of times, so I think they're putting backup light bulbs in there.
Oh, okay.
I saw some email exchange about that, so your feedback is important.
Okay.
Thank you. And tell me about your experience with, I know you've done a Bioblitz as well. I
Yes,
know
yes,
you've done stall catchers. Want to start with the stall
Yes.
catchers experience?
Okay, the stall catchers I did become involved in because of the knee injury, and it kind of confined me to doing things that I didn't have to walk so much with. So I got involved with looking online for the computer ones that were available. Robin did talk about the upcoming Citizen Science Day and the need to start looking at getting more people involved in trying to learn more about Alzheimer's, since that is such a devastating disease for not only the people that have it, but their family members and friends as well. So I started looking into that, got signed up on stall catchers initially, and started working at it. I would encourage anyone that does become interested in doing this to be sure and watch the educational video and to read the instructions and read the tips, because they provide an awful lot of information about how to analyze what you're looking at. And for myself, I did find that even though you can auto-run the videos, I found that I preferred to do it manually so that I could go back and forth over an area I wasn't sure about to determine whether or not it was just a red blood cell that was moving or if it was actually a stall. So I do that more than I do the auto-run.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Those are great tips. Robin, do you want to join us to talk a little bit about the upcoming events?
Sure.
And anything else?
I actually, Peggy, if you could talk about your experience doing our Bioblitz. If you haven't ever participated in a Bioblitz before, it's when you get experts in the field of biology or conservation to join you and the public. And as Darlene mentioned before, have your iNaturalist app, an account created. Have the apps on your mobile devices like phones, tablets. If you use a digital camera, that's great. You just have to upload those observations, photos to your account on a website at a later date. But we had one here at the Gilbert Riparian Preserve, Gilbert, Arizona in early December. And with a body of experts and volunteers like Peggy and Julie, you came too, went out and took pictures of bees and birds, and we have a lake, so it was even possible to take pictures of turtles, ducks. There are fish in there, trees, any other plant. So why don't you guys explain, what you saw and what you thought of the whole program?
Well, initially the experts, the professionals, took several groups of people with them so that we were learning from them as we were going along. But it was a smaller group of people as a result, and we were being able to have more exchange with a professional at that point. Then it was a really nice day, a really sunny day. It was a nice walk around the lakes, the water areas, and there were a lot of different critters that we found to take pictures of. And it was an enjoyable day. We then came back to the conference room here and shared what we had discovered while we were out walking around the preserve.
Yeah.
That was my experience as well. I was with foliage experts, and so we got lots of pictures of plants. But it was a great day. It was a great experience. I would highly recommend anybody who hasn't experienced the Riparian to go do that and experience the Riparian.
Because you can do it. I do it. We have a wonderful preserve system in Phoenix called the Phoenix Mountain Preserves, and I hike a South Mountain Preserve, and I have gone out just individually and done it. What a great thing for a family to do. And with these projects we're creating, we have another Bioblitz coming up this Saturday, March 2nd, and it's I think called the Spring Riparian Preserve Bioblitz. So we'll have all those observations during that, taken from that morning, And either staff here in Gilbert, the town of Gilbert, or biologists anywhere around the world can go into this cloud database, look at our specific projects, or maybe they want to just follow, we actually get white pelicans coming through here. They'll be able to, from that database, see a snapshot people have taken of the white pelicans here in Gilbert, Arizona on a specific date, which may help them in their, scientific research.
And it definitely does. And
Yes.
people have discovered new species as a result of iNaturalist and these programs too.
Yeah. Also, in addition, we have had great success working with our local universities, Grand Canyon State University, Arizona State University. We have a great community college system, and we get help from them as well. So we have speakers come in, and on Tuesday, March 5th, for example, as Darlene talked about earlier, we have an agricultural PhD coming in talking about bees. And if you don't know, our honeybees have been threatened by parasites, as Darlene talked about, colony collapse, which you're not always sure, is it a fungus or is it a parasite causing hives to collapse. So he's going to come in, talk about his research at ASU and the challenges he has with that and how things like parasites are affecting. Another thing, if you're not aware of, the cities of Arizona are really having to start thinking about the heat island effect. And that means our cities are continually getting hotter and hotter. And why is that happening? How can we control that? So we have a professor coming with her students on Wednesday, April 3rd, and they're going to do a demonstration of a drone, a flying robot, that has already once gone over this building and taken a variety of readings, including temperature. So they're going to talk about that project and how they're working with cities like Phoenix or Tempe here in Arizona to show them what kind of heat is coming from different structures, and then maybe that will help, that research will help come up with creative alternatives to keeping those buildings cooler and thus decreasing the temperatures, especially in the summer, within those cities. So we're just so fortunate to have those partnerships, and you as citizens can come in and learn and maybe even get involved in helping gathering data for these projects.
Thank you. Thank you.